First Contact's Deception. Recording begins, Galactic date, 47.299.12. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Confederation's Grand Archive towered above me as I, historical archivist Zyxtal, began my final documentation of the event that changed our understanding of the universe. My peripheral sensors tingled with the weight of responsibility, recording humanity's emergence into galactic society and our monumental miscalculation. The first contact occurred during what we thought would be a routine exploration mission. The Confederation vessel, Eternal Light, discovered Earth's radio signals, and initial scans suggested a Level 2 civilization, barely capable of lunar exploration. Our arrogance would prove to be our undoing. Admiral Isabella Reynolds stood on the landing platform when our delegation first arrived. I remember the way she smiled, not the submissive expression we expected from a supposedly inferior species, but something that held centuries of hidden knowledge. The Confederation's ambassador, High Lord Vexthor, emerged from our ship in his ceremonial robes, ready to begin the standard integration protocol. "Welcome to Earth," Reynolds said, her voice carrying an authority that made my crystalline structure vibrate uncomfortably. "We've been expecting you." The declaration sent ripples of confusion through our delegation. According to our intelligence, Earth had no way of detecting our approach. Our stealth technology was supposedly centuries beyond their capabilities. Yet there she stood, surrounded by an honor guard whose weapons our scanners couldn't even identify. High Lord Vexthor maintained his diplomatic composure, though I noticed his primary tentacles twitching, a sign of agitation in his species. "We come bearing gifts of knowledge and technology," he announced, activating the holographic display of our standard integration package. "The Galactic Confederation offers you protection and guidance in exchange for No." The simple word cut through the air like a plasma blade. Admiral Reynolds hadn't raised her voice, hadn't moved from her relaxed stance, but the authority in that single syllable silenced even the wind. "I don't believe you understand," Vexthor began, his voice taking on the patronizing tone that had worked so well with other emerging civilizations. "Your species needs our protection. The galaxy is full of dangers that High Lord Vexthor," Reynolds interrupted, her smile never wavering, "we've monitored your Confederation for the past 50 years. We've decoded your encryption, analyzed your technology, and studied your species. We know about the hidden protocols in your gifts, the backdoors, the control mechanisms, the surveillance systems. We're not interested." The shock that rippled through our delegation nearly shattered my recording crystal. 50 years? They had been watching us? Impossible. Our stealth technology was perfect, our encryption unbreakable. Yet as I processed her words, I noticed details I had overlooked, the subtle sophistication of their architecture, the almost invisible shimmer of energy fields far more advanced than anything in our database. "Perhaps," Reynolds continued, "we should discuss a different kind of relationship. One based on mutual respect rather than attempted subjugation." The memory crystals in my archives pulse with the intensity of what happened next. High Lord Vexthor, in his infinite wisdom, attempted to activate the emergency protocol, a standard procedure designed to demonstrate our superior technology and ensure compliance through a show of force. Nothing happened. "Your ship's systems are currently in a state of quantum lock," Reynolds explained, almost apologetically. "Don't worry, we'll release them once we've concluded our discussion. Now, shall we begin actual diplomatic relations?" That moment, that precise instant, was when we should have realized the truth. Humanity hadn't needed our protection. They hadn't needed our guidance. While we watched them take their first steps into space, they had already walked among the stars. The recording crystal pulses once more as I save this segment. Tomorrow, I will document how the Confederation's pride led us further down a path of catastrophic miscalculation. But for now, I contemplate the view of Earth from my observation post, remembering the day we learned that appearances can be deceiving, and that some species are best approached with humility rather than condescension. End recording, Galactic date, 47.299.12. The Silent Advance. Recording begins, Galactic date, 47.299.13. The archive's quantum crystals hum as I begin today's documentation. The events following first contact revealed just how deeply humanity had embedded themselves into galactic society before we even knew they existed. Our ignorance was matched only by our continued arrogance. The Confederation's response to Admiral Reynolds' revelations was predictably bureaucratic. Emergency sessions were called. Committees were formed. Reports were demanded. I remember sitting in the Grand Chamber, watching Ambassador Keelren, who had replaced the disgraced Vexthor, present his analysis of the human situation. Clearly, he declared, his crystalline form refracting light across the chamber, they have somehow acquired advanced technology from another source. No species could advance so quickly on their own. His next words would prove to be another catastrophic miscalculation. We must identify their benefactor and neutralize this threat to galactic stability. If only we had known. If only we had understood. The first hint of humanity's true capabilities came when our deep space monitoring stations began detecting anomalies. Ships appearing and disappearing at impossible distances. Energy signatures that defied our understanding of physics. Communications that seemed to ignore the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. I paused the recording, accessing the classified archives from that period. The footage shows a Confederation science vessel, the Eternal Seeker, investigating what they thought was a primitive human research station near their Mars colony. Captain Nyraval's log captures the moment perfectly. These humans are clever with their camouflage, but their attempts at hiding their true technological level are almost charming. Our sensors indicate only basic fusion power and preliminary antimatter research. The next entry, recorded just 6 hours later, still sends shivers through my crystalline structure. I don't understand. They just walked through our shields. Not disabled them. Not overloaded them. Walked through them as if they didn't exist. A human delegation is now aboard, drinking what they call coffee, in our main laboratory, explaining how our understanding of quantum fields is quaint and theoretically interesting but practically limited. The Confederation's response was to increase surveillance on human territories. We deployed our most advanced stealth ships, enhanced our scanning technology, and activated deep cover intelligence networks. Ambassador Keelren personally oversaw the operation, confident that we would uncover the secret of humanity's unexpected advancement. We did not expect humans to be waiting for us in our own secure facilities. The recording shows the moment Ambassador Keelren entered his supposedly secure office to find Dr. Nathaniel Harrison, Earth's Chief of Scientific Development, sitting calmly at his desk. The human was examining our most classified technical documents with an expression that might best be described as mild amusement. "Your quantum encryption is fascinating," Harrison said, not looking up from the documents. "The theoretical framework is quite elegant, though the practical implementation is a bit recursive. Would you like me to show you where the vulnerabilities are?" The memory still burns bright in my recording crystals, the moment when one of the Confederation's most composed diplomats lost his carefully maintained composure. Keelren's crystalline form actually cracked from the stress, a phenomenon I had never witnessed before. How did you get in here?" Keelren demanded. "This facility is protected by everything you know about dimensional physics, quantum mechanics, and spatial manipulation," Harrison interrupted, finally looking up. "Yes, we know. We figured all that out about 30 Earth years ago. We've moved on to more interesting areas of study since then. That was when we should have recognized the truth. Humanity hadn't just caught up to us, they had surpassed us generations ago. While we watched their primitive space launches and celebrated their first steps into their solar system, they had been quietly mastering sciences we had yet to even theorize about." The quantum recorder captures my sigh as I access the next set of records. The Confederation's leadership, in their infinite wisdom, saw Harrison's infiltration not as a warning but as a challenge. They began planning what they believed would be a masterstroke of political maneuvering, the complete isolation of Earth from galactic society. They didn't realize that humanity had already rendered such measures obsolete. They didn't understand that humans had been watching, learning, and advancing while we congratulated ourselves on our supposed superiority. They didn't comprehend that their next actions would push humanity's legendary patience to its breaking point. End recording, Galactic date, 47.299.13. The archive's preservation fields flicker as I begin today's documentation. The weight of what I must record next sits heavy in my crystalline matrix. The Confederation's attempt to isolate Earth would prove to be the catalyst that revealed just how completely we had underestimated humanity's reach. Supreme Chancellor Vexthar, newly appointed after a series of political maneuvers, stood before the Galactic Assembly. The recording captures his smug confidence as he announced what he believed would be Earth's downfall. The humans have rejected our guidance? Then they shall learn the cost of their arrogance. As of this moment, all trade routes to Sol are closed. All technological exchanges are suspended. Earth shall be quarantined until they learn their proper place in the galactic order. The human representative, Director Samantha Blackhurst, sat quietly through the announcement. When she finally spoke, her words carried an weight that should have warned us. "Chancellor," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, "you seem to be operating under several misconceptions. First, that we need your trade routes. Second, that we want your technology. And third, that you have the ability to enforce this quarantine." The assembly erupted in outrage. Species from 1,000 worlds shouting about human presumption, about teaching them humility, about showing them the consequences of defiance. Through it all, Blackhurst simply sat, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Perhaps," she continued once the chaos subsided, "a demonstration is in order. The next events still strain my recording capabilities." Simultaneously, across Confederation space, every major trading hub received the same message: greetings from the Sol Trading Consortium. Human merchants, who had apparently been operating under various alien identities for decades, revealed themselves. Human technology, disguised as various alien products, was suddenly everywhere. The Drachnid delegation discovered that their supposedly secure quantum vault had been using human encryption algorithms for the past 15 years. The Marathian Empire learned that their prized faster-than-light drive design had actually been licensed, through a series of shell companies, from a human corporation. But the true shock came when Director Blackhurst revealed humanity's transportation network. "While you've been focusing on your traditional hyperlanes," she explained, displaying a hologram that made our best stellar maps look like child's drawings, "we've been developing something more efficient." The quantum recordings show the moment when thousands of new transit points suddenly appeared throughout Confederation space. Stable wormholes, temporal corridors, and something the humans called fold space gates, a transportation network that made our carefully controlled trade routes obsolete. "You can't do this." Supreme Chancellor Vexthar's crystalline form vibrated with rage. "These technologies violate dozens of Confederation treaties." "Treaties?" Blackhurst's smile never wavered. "We never signed your treaties, Chancellor. You never asked us to. You were too busy trying to force us into submission to consider us equals worthy of treaty negotiations." I remember shifting uncomfortably in my observation post as I watched the humans systematically dismantle every assumption we had about our technological superiority. They hadn't just matched our capabilities, they had developed entirely new branches of science while we congratulated ourselves on our imagined dominance. The Confederation's response was predictably aggressive. Vexthar ordered the deployment of containment fleets to secure human trade operations. The recording shows Admiral Reynolds' response, a system-wide broadcast that reached every ship, every station, every colony in Confederation space. We've treated your previous actions as the product of ignorance rather than malice. That ends now. Any attempt to interfere with human operations will be considered an act of war. You don't want to see what happens when humanity actually decides to fight back. The quantum recorder captures my shudder as I remember what happened next. A Drachnid battle group, believing their stealth systems made them invulnerable, attempted to seize a human trading post. They found their ship suddenly transported into the heart of their own capital system, weapons disabled, systems locked, with a simple message playing on every screen: first warning. The Confederation's leadership, in their infinite inability to learn from their mistakes, saw this not as the serious warning it was, but as a challenge to their authority. They began mobilizing for what they believed would be a swift military action to put the humans in their place. They didn't understand that humanity had been holding back. They couldn't comprehend that everything they had seen, the advanced technology, the vast network, the casual dismissal of our most powerful weapons, was humanity being gentle. They were about to learn just how terrible humanity could be when pushed too far. The archive's quantum matrices strain as I begin documenting the darkest chapter in Confederation history. What followed the failed quarantine attempt would forever change the balance of power in our galaxy. Grand Admiral Zixus of the combined Confederation fleet stood proudly on the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, the most powerful warship ever constructed by our civilization. Around him, a fleet of 1 million ships gathered, the combined military might of 17 species, armed with weapons that could shatter planets. The humans have played their games long enough, he declared to the assembled fleet commanders. Today, we remind them of their proper place in the cosmic order. The recording crystals capture the moment in perfect clarity, the massive fleet emerging from hyperspace near Earth's orbital defense sphere. It should have been an overwhelming show of force. It should have brought humanity to its knees. It should have done many things. Instead, the entire fleet found itself frozen in space, caught in what the humans later called a temporal stasis field. On every ship's command deck, a hologram of Admiral Reynolds appeared, now wearing casual civilian attire rather than her military uniform. "I see you've chosen to ignore our warnings," she said, her voice carrying a weight of sadness that none of us understood at the time. "Very well. Allow us to demonstrate why that was a mistake." What happened next defied our understanding of physics. Each ship in our fleet suddenly found itself surrounded by what appeared to be copies of itself, perfect mirror images created through some incomprehensible manipulation of quantum states. "You're currently experiencing what we call quantum superposition on a macro scale," Reynolds explained, as if teaching a basic science lesson. "Each of your ships now exists in multiple states simultaneously. We could collapse these states in any configuration we choose. For instance." She gestured casually, and 1,000 ships from the fleet's vanguard simply ceased to exist, their quantum states collapsed in such a way that they had never been constructed in the first place. The crews found themselves back on their home worlds, with memories of serving on ships that now had never existed. "That was 1% of your fleet," Reynolds continued. "A demonstration, nothing more. The next demonstration will be considerably less gentle." Grand Admiral Zixus, his crystalline form clouded with fear for the first time in his long life, managed to find his voice. What are you?" "We are human," Reynolds replied simply. "We've spent centuries watching the stars, dreaming of meeting other intelligent life. We developed our technology, expanded our understanding, and waited patiently for the day we would join a galactic community. Instead, we found empires built on subjugation, species that saw difference as weakness, and a confederation that mistook technological advancement for moral superiority." The quantum recorder captures the silence that followed, a silence that stretched across 1,000,000 ships as the truth finally began to dawn on us. "Your fleet will now return to Confederation space," Reynolds continued. "Your weapons have been permanently disabled, not through any crude mechanical means, but through subtle adjustments to the quantum probability fields that govern their function. They simply cannot fire anymore, and no amount of repairs will change that. But the Confederation's leadership, in their terminal inability to accept reality, made one final, catastrophic mistake. Supreme Chancellor Vexthar, watching from the Confederation capital, activated the deadliest weapon in our arsenal, the Reality Splitter, a device capable of tearing apart the fabric of spacetime itself. The weapon fired. Reality screamed. And nothing happened. Did you think we wouldn't know about that? Reynolds' hologram asked, now showing clear disappointment. We detected and neutralized your Reality Splitter project 3 decades ago. In fact. She paused, consulting something off-screen. We currently have 2,947 of your secret weapons projects under containment. Would you like a list? The recording shows the moment when Grand Admiral Zixus, one of the proudest warriors in Confederation history, did something unprecedented. He surrendered. Not just his fleet, but his pride, his assumptions, and his understanding of humanity's place in the universe. Perhaps, he said quietly, it is time we learned what it means to be truly civilized from those we wrongly called primitive. The quantum recorder pulses as I save this segment. Tomorrow, I will document how this moment led to the complete restructuring of galactic society. But for now, I contemplate how close we came to destruction, saved only by humanity's remarkable restraint in victory. The archive's preservation fields shimmer with an almost musical resonance as I begin my final recording. What followed the Confederation fleet's surrender would reshape our understanding not just of humanity, but of our own place in the cosmos. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, now transformed by human quantum engineering to accommodate representatives from every known species, Director Blackhurst stood before the gathered delegates. The recording captures the moment in perfect clarity, the first time in galactic history when true change seemed possible. The era of Confederation dominance is over, she announced, her voice carrying neither triumph nor condemnation. But this is not a human victory. This is an opportunity for all species to begin anew. The quantum crystals hold the image of what happened next, Admiral Reynolds and Dr. Harrison joining her on the platform, carrying what appeared to be a simple metallic sphere. What they revealed would change everything. This, Harrison explained, activating the device, is what we call the Universal Translator Matrix. Not the crude approximation of language that your translation devices use, but a true bridge between minds. It allows for the sharing not just of words, but of concepts, emotions, and understanding. The chamber filled with light as the device activated. Species that had struggled to communicate for millennia suddenly found themselves truly understanding each other for the first time. The recording shows the moment when ancient enemies, the crystalline Vexthar and the plasma-based Xylith, finally comprehended each other's fundamental nature. We have chosen to share this technology freely, Reynolds continued, along with other advancements that we believe will benefit all species. But more importantly, we want to share our philosophy of exploration and discovery. The images flow through my recording matrix, human scientists working alongside Confederation researchers, sharing insights that transformed our understanding of the universe. The revelation that what we had thought were the immutable laws of physics were merely our limited comprehension of a far more complex reality. But perhaps most surprising was humanity's approach to their newfound position of power. They didn't establish an empire. They didn't demand reparations. Instead, they proposed something unprecedented, the Galactic Coalition of Free Species. We spent centuries dreaming of the stars, Blackhurst explained to the assembly. Not to conquer them, not to exploit them, but to understand them. To learn from them. To grow beyond our own limitations. We believe every species has this same potential within them. The recording shows the transformative effects of this philosophy. The rigid hierarchies of the old Confederation dissolved, replaced by collaborative councils where every species, regardless of their technological level, had a voice. The human approach to science, questioning, experimenting, imagining, spread throughout galactic society. Former Supreme Chancellor Vexthar, now serving as a scientific advisor, appears in the footage addressing a group of young researchers from various species. The human's greatest technology, he explains, his crystalline form glowing with newfound wisdom, was not their quantum manipulation or their fold space drives. It was their ability to imagine possibilities beyond their current understanding. To look at the impossible and ask, why not? The quantum recorder captures my own reflection on these events. We had feared humanity would become the terrifying superpower we had tried to prevent. Instead, they became something far more powerful. They became teachers, guides, and partners in exploration. The recordings show the new projects that emerged, joint ventures to explore other galaxies, collaborative efforts to understand the nature of consciousness itself, shared missions to protect and nurture emerging civilizations. Humanity's influence spread not through force or dominance, but through their infectious curiosity and unrelenting optimism. Admiral Reynolds' final address to the coalition stands as a testament to this transformation. The universe is not a resource to be exploited or a territory to be controlled. It is a mystery to be explored, a puzzle to be solved, a wonder to be shared. We invite all species to join us in this greatest of adventures. Today, as I complete these historical records, I look out at a galaxy transformed. The feared reputation of humanity has evolved into something else entirely, not as conquerors or rulers, but as the species that taught the galaxy how to dream again.